All right, welcome back. For a while now, however goes California, goes the rest of the country, right? It's right behind. Whether it may be climate, hogs even, or cars, California seems to exercise outside powers over the rest of the country. Now, we've seen their efforts on climate, right? We've also seen their efforts on how to raise pigs. We talk about that all day long here on this station. And we've also seen it in their efforts to replace combustion engines with electric vehicles, right? Well, that may now change. Republican California Representative Vince Fong is praising efforts that the House Republicans are taking to prevent his energy incompetent home state from dictating its de facto electric vehicle mandate on the rest of the country. Now, House Republicans are slated to repeal 3 Environmental Protection Agency waivers issued during the final weeks of former President Joe Biden's term that would allow other states to adopt California's strict emission standards on gas-powered vehicles. Fong is warning that House Republicans must rescind these waivers, citing that California as a cautionary tale for states who pursue climate-related policies at the expense of grid reliability and low energy prices. Now, this is not the United States of California, American Trucking Association Chris Spear wrote in a statement in February. All right, let's bring on the man behind the movement. Please welcome to the show, Congressman Vince Fong. Thank you very much for taking the time here, sir. I got a few questions for you that we rumbled up. Can you speak about why it's so important to revoke these waivers we just talked about and guarantee rural Americans have a vehicle choice?
Well, when it comes to policy, California is the example of what not to do. So when it comes to energy, when it comes to water, it just the litany of things. So this morning, we repealed a number of waivers, not only when it comes to cars and trucks, but we actually repealed the waiver when it comes to the smelt as well. So, but as you said before, look, California, is a state, shouldn't dictate the vehicle policy for the entire country. We need consistent federal rules. These waivers, especially when it comes to cars and trucks and rail, they were granted in the last days of the Biden administration. It was an attempt by President Biden to impose California's out-of-touch energy mandates on the entire country, contrary to common sense, contrary to what the public wanted.
Right.
Not every American wants to drive an EV or needs one. We should protect their right to choose the vehicle they want.
All right, just protect the choice. I agree with you 100%. How about the House voted this week to overturn the Endangered Species Act, listing for that longfin spout that you just mentioned, which is a fish located in California. Can you talk about how important it is for California farmers on that issue, though?
Well, water is life. As someone who represents the Central Valley of California, our farmers and ranchers have been dealing with these water issues as well as Northern California for a very long time. We pay 100% of the water we don't get. And so, removing this obstacle, this one piece of red tape, which is a critical one that has obstructed our ability to move water up and down the state, this is an important step forward. We need to focus on the science. So passing this Congressional Review Act will now empower and help advance President Trump's goals of moving more water throughout the state. We need to build more storage, of course, but we need to align the state and federal water projects, and we can't allow this one fish to hold everything up.
Right. It's like they choose the fish or the owl or whatever over people. At some point in time, you got to elevate the person. How about this? Governor Newsom, he's been hostile to traditional energy sources. We all know that, which leads to the highest gas prices in the country. Can you help explain to us California's excessive regulations and how that's placing an undue burden on consumers and then especially our farmers and those that live in those rural areas?
Oh, sure. Well, look, my community is the food production capital of California. We're also the energy production capital of California. We produce 75% of the state's oil and natural gas production. So, this is something that's very important. And when you talk to farmers, the gas prices, diesel prices, electricity costs, they're probably, one of the biggest costs of their operations. California, again, is just not the example when it comes to energy policy. We have unique blends in California. We just can't bring in gasoline and diesel from other states. And so we're an energy island. And so we actually have to produce our own. We have some of the largest reserves of oil and natural gas in the United States. It's just that Gavin Newsom, because of his animosity toward oil and gas, won't allow us to produce our own. So we're forced to import all these supplies from countries that don't like us.
Right,
And
of course.
that makes no sense. And then so you not only from a domestic supply standpoint, we got to produce our own, but now you look at the news recently, 2 weeks ago, I believe, Valero just announced that they're going to close the refinery up in the Bay Area, and that coupled with the recent announcement of the closure of a refinery in LA, we're going to see 20% of our refining capacity disappearing by next year.
Wow.
I mean, this is not an academic conversation. This is happening right now, and it's all because of Gavin Newsom's idiotic policies. I mean, look, I get you don't like oil and gas, but you need to power the state. I mean, how do you power the fourth largest economy without gasoline and jet fuel?
It's not going to be wind and solar. I guarantee you that. You can't rely on it. Number one. Number two is, real quick before you go, I come from Chicago. Chicago's run a lot like California. How does Newsom, how does Pritzker, how do they look at themselves in the mirror? You mentioned it, common sense, knowing the numbers show these large outmigration moves where people are fleeing the state with their hair on fire. How do they justify that when these policies are some of the reasons that they're going?
Well, they can't. I mean, look, I've said all the time. I mean, Illinois, New York, Chicago. I mean, the consequences are because of the policies of the governor.
Yeah.
And so the silver lining in all this is that the damage has been done because of man-made decisions that were very bad. We can undo all those things. If we undid all those things and just brought back common sense, science-based policies, I mean, then we can begin to turn all of these states around. Have abundant power, have abundant housing, have abundant water, so that we can actually feed our communities, that we can actually drive our cars, the cars we choose, and drives the trucks, and have secure supply chains and grow. I mean, all of this is possible. We just need to have some common sense brought to all these state legislators. And now we're using the leverage of our majorities, the Republican majority in the House and the Senate, and the president's leadership to kind of bring that common sense onto these states.
Yeah, well, I own the website, but I'm going to start another political party called I'm a common sensocrat. How about that? So that's where
common sense that's all we need. We just need common sense.
All right. Congressman Fong, thank you very much for coming on the show. Great stuff as usual. Hope to speak to you soon, and hopefully these things get repealed. That's great stuff. All right. By now, I've got my go-tos. That's gold, oil, the 10-year yield, and the U.S. dollar. And man, they still tell us a story.